Hello, hello. How are you, man?
I'm doing
Uh,
great, man. It's good to be with you.
yeah, I'm very excited too. I just need to have studio payment here. Perfect. Okay, that
There
works.
he is.
And now I just need to give you the some small adjustments. Just the
Oh,
beginning
I'm
of
too
the show.
close.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, that's good now. Perfect. Okay, guys. Okay, it's great to have you here. I'm super happy to do this with you. I hope that you are doing well. Steven, are you excited to be here today? Talk about curation. I know that's your specialty, favorite
I was gonna
topic.
say that is my jam, man. I'm really excited to dig into this with you guys, and the entire NFT Paris reflection of it all is like something I'm very much so looking forward to. So very excited to be here and looking forward to the show, man.
Mm. Man, it's a pity that you couldn't come, but yeah, we're gonna talk about it. And Payman, beautiful view and enjoying.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been raining a lot here, and I was sick after Denver. So, the sun came out. I was in between meetings. My dog needed this little backyard action, so I brought him out. But now the sun is gone. So,
No,
it's
it's
been raining here in San Francisco area, but it's it's a nice day, and it's good to be with both of you.
yeah. But I've heard that it never rains in San Francisco, so
No, I think that's not true. It does rain, and actually, it rained a lot yesterday, all day actually, and it was quite windy. I don't know if you can see the eucalyptus trees, super
oh
windy a
yeah, it's
little bit. So I
beautiful.
might have to go in soon. I just wanted to give my dog a little break because I haven't been able to walk him today
Hmm.
because I had back-to-back meetings. Since I came back from Denver, I caught bronchitis, and at first I thought it was COVID, and I couldn't get out of bed for like a week, entire week. Like I was so weak, I couldn't do it. So then I saw a doctor and I got some antibiotics, and thanks
Oh,
to modern medicine, I'm
yeah.
back out of bed.
Okay, so now you're back. Now you're fine.
Yeah, I'm
Perfect.
fine.
Let's go. Well, we already have Pavel here saying GM Pavel. I hope that
GM
you're excited
Pavel.
about this show, guys. If please, if you want to support us and have more people seeing these shows, we'd appreciate if you can like and retweet this. We are continuing this experience with the video shows, and it's going well. I'm learning every day, so yeah, please give it a
Can
like
I
and
ask you a
retweet.
quick question?
Of course,
How do
payment.
I like do I share this to my Safari because I just clicked on the link you sent me in Twitter?
Uh
Do
huh.
I up do I is it better for me to be on the browser so I could retweet,
If you
or how
can
to
go to your computer, yeah, you can join. So it has network effect because that's the problem of video shows. Like you join through the private link that I gave you, so you can
yeah.
participate. But X doesn't know that you are in here speaking. So you also need to kind of join through your computer or another mobile, whatever. So it has the network effect, and people see that you are participating in the live show. That's how it
Okay,
works.
and then the other question is on my screen on the bottom, I see myself like far away, but then on the screen next to Steven, I see only my face is right in the camera. Which one is it that you're seeing?
No, it's good,
I-
no?
Is
What
it
do you
the
think?
zoomed in version?
It's okay like this. Seriously, it's
Okay,
fine.
okay. All
People
right,
want to see you.
I'll try to go and also log in from the laptop too.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Well, guys, today I wanted to talk about curation in general. Of course, we're gonna take the example of what we did for the NFT Paris Bitcoin art exhibition, but the idea is to talk about curation in general and give some advices to artists because there was a lot of mm, not FUD, but people giving feedback about open call for artist exhibitions and people not trusting that. So maybe we can help a few people here with some tips and yeah, talk about it in general. Okay, we have Ergi. GMRG. Very, very cool that you can come here today. Actually, yeah, it's interesting also for RG and Pavel because there are two of the artists selected for the Bitcoin art exhibition. I hope that more artists are going to come. So yeah, guys, my first question or topic that I want to talk about is like how to define curation, because I believe that a lot of people in this space just doesn't know what it means curation, and it's, you know, it's a word that people put in everywhere and use it very easily in my opinion. So yeah, I would like to know what's your opinion on what does it mean to create something, to create art. Steven, maybe let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's one of those topics that's really, really funny because everybody has a different definition for it. You know, you can curate an exhibition, you can curate a collectorship, you can like curate the way that it is shown. And the truth is that it's all of these things. It just depends on how you want to actually approach it. So for somebody like me, I come at it from an inclusivity standpoint and wanting to make sure that we're including people across like a very wide variety when it's a bigger open call. But for a lot of what you end up getting out of an open call, you find gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what then brings in the need for like true curatorial thought and like actually getting deeper into it to figure out how you fill those gaps with art that can create a bigger picture of what you're trying to accomplish in the exhibition. So for me, that's my own view of it. But I'd be really curious because I know that Studio Payman's been at it for a bit longer than I have, about what his view is on like how he would explain curation.
Yeah, 100%. Payment.
I appreciate you, Steven, and you're an amazing curator. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. I think curation is basically having an eye. First of all, I love what you said about inclusivity and I add diversity into the mix. Since I started back in June of 2021 at the Bitcoin conference from the Clubhouse days, our mission always has been to include as many artists that fit the show. So if you have a theme, for example, sorry, the wind is blowing. I don't know if my sound is okay. But if you have a theme, you want to make sure that the artwork complements one another. So as much as we want to open the gates, break down the gates of the traditional kind of curation by galleries and establishments, if there is a theme, we try to make sure that the artwork complements one another as it's being displayed in the exhibition. With that said, my goal is to onboard as many dope artists as possible and bring them into the Web3. And especially now with ordinals, the last 2 years, 2.5 years, kind of just continuing to do that. Sometimes some of them have not inscribed. I try to sort of handhold them and help them inscribe. But for the most part, my mission is to empower and spotlight as many cool, dope artwork and artists as possible, so that we can continue to open up the circle and widen the circle of Web3 art.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, so if I understand well, for you, curation is empowering artists that are starting and giving them also good opportunities, exhibitions, etc. Right? Okay. Because
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, because also, Stephen, I wasn't sure exactly on how to summarize what he said. Uh, can you maybe try to, explain it in a few words for you? I can hear you.
You're,
I don't know why. Yeah, you're mute. Shit. Okay. Well,
I'm going to
No,
move
I'm good.
inside. It's a
I'm
little bit too windy
I'm
here.
good. That's my bad. I was trying to practice good microphone hygiene by pressing the mute button before I speak again, but just as I do on X Spaces, I always forget to unmute as soon as I start talking again. So that's just on me. But to answer your question, like I think that if you look at it holistically about what I had said and what Gerard had said, you do get a pretty damn good clear picture of what curation looks like today. It just comes down to what that individual curator really looks to accomplish with it. But Gerard, from your perspective, like I'm really fascinated by how like each of us will have different definitions.
Yeah.
How do you approach curation right now from your own perspective? But also, what makes, I guess, curation so important to you? That's where
Mm.
my head goes.
Well, for me, it's a process that extremely personal and subjective. I feel like the way I see it is I know collectors. I kind of have a good connection with some big collectors that are in the Vivid community, and my goal is to find something that will resonate with me, but I also know that the collectors that are following the gallery will like. So it's this double process. First, I create artists and collections that I'm gonna like and that I think that are important, and collectors also. I need to I need to somehow explain uh, and uh, and yeah, illustrate my tastes to a base of collectors that I know that are going to follow the gallery, and then that usually are going to like what we have to propose to them. So that's why I say that it's very, very subjective. And what's most important for me in the creation part is the trust from the collectors, and to have a very defined style. Why? Because once they follow you and they do not want or they can't take the time to just check everything what's happening on ordinals or in every art ecosystem, well, they do trust you, and they do want to have good advices, good insights. And I actually loved one thing that Base Change said in our last show. He said that he wanted to collect a few pieces from the project from Did Higgs, yeah, and he just sent a message to the creator and was like, okay, please give me a few outputs that you like so I can collect them, because I do not have time to go through all the outputs. And that's for me a good illustration of what a good curator is someone that can help collectors and artists as a good intermediary.
Yeah, I think that's a
That's
really
a really
important
great
point.
take. Yeah, I mean, I really had never um, thought about it, curation. As I mean, I'm a collector myself, so I guess that I've never really heard that take on curation, curating for specific collectors' eyes. I actually appreciate that. That you take your take on that, because I think it's the way I do it is that when I that's why I travel all over the world for when I curate is when I curate I want to make sure that I am there so that the artists that are in the show that can't be at the show are represented, and I can talk about their art, I can talk about their story with potential collectors. But
Mm-hmm.
I guess because you're a gallery owner, that's the way you approach it, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, cool. Thanks. You
Yeah,
too.
of course.
The one thing I want to add to it, because it was a really really good point, Gerard. You know, you make so many of them, right? But I feel like I need to echo one quick thing, and it's just the fact that like when you are working with an artist on curation, it's much different than
Mm-hmm.
approaching an exhibition,
Of
right?
course.
Like there's just very very big variance there. But the important thing about working with an artist on curation is understanding from the artist's viewpoint that like, or I guess like encouraging the artist to understand that the need for curation is there, because in any line of work you can get too close to your work, right? Like you can't see the full picture when it's up this close. You want to be able to break down that barrier and see all of the possibility around the work. So especially because you work in the generative landscape, like you get that very much so, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much variety from an algorithm. You sometimes need a curator to come in and help refine it and figure out, okay, what makes the most sense to debut out onto the world. And that's, to me, one of the coolest parts about it is trying to figure out how you can show what that work is, what it means, in the way that gives the purest encapsulation of what it is underlying meant to be. I hope that made sense, and it wasn't just me being
No,
poetic.
it makes sense, and to me, we are just saying also that there are a lot of different parts of curation. You can create collections, artists, exhibition, collectors, and yeah, that's why I guess curation is a word that a lot of people use very easily because it can be used in a lot of different contexts.
Yeah, and I guess in a way, when you are putting a show together, the curator's job and actually their individual taste and also their personality kind of comes through in that too, because each of us are unique, and I think it's really important to collaborate. That's why I love collaborating with you and Steven, and in the past with Searchlight, which is the team that of like I think we had at 1.9, 8 or 9 volunteer curators that were helping with our curation. So each person has their own unique approach, and it's really important to be able to work with like-minded people that have different approaches, and you can sort of combine it to make it like an eclectic show, rather than just, hey, here's my eye, what I see beautiful, because I think
Yeah, so
art
you also think it's
is kind of
super subjective, right? Curation, it's and
absolutely.
has to be subjective because that's usually a good question from artists. Like, okay, yeah, there's going to be those curators, but how objective are they going to be? But is it really the point of being objective when you create an art exhibition? I personally don't think so. And that's where there is kind of a double curation where organizers of the event are curating the curators because they more or less know or trust them on their judgment. It's like, okay, I want to do a generative art exhibition. Well, I'm going to contact Steven because I know I can trust him. I have seen his shows, whatever, you know?
Mhm.
That's perfect.
Absolutely. I think that the trust factor comes with experience and expertise, and people see what you do. I mean, Steven has been prolific in uplifting and spotlighting dope artists, and so have you. So like I feel like each one brings something unique to the table, and
Yeah.
when I work with a team, usually I try to add value and make sure that what they are building can be elevated by my my curatorial eye, if you will, and my
Mm.
taste.
Yeah, but that was cool about this Bitcoin art exhibition. Actually, I wanted to move on this. I have this the announcement here. Let me just add you again up. Perfect. Because yeah, this was a big collaboration on the creation side for this art exhibition. I know that the three of us included people or artists that we wanted to see there. In addition to the open call that we did. So it was quite cool, you know, just for people to understand. And we have also here Sir Beer, and nice to see you here. Um, for people to understand how we did this selection for Bitcoin. So basically, we opened a forms where artists could just submit an artwork that wanted to be exhibited there, and did a selection where the three of us say, okay, I'm considering this artist, I'm rejecting this artist, or I'm selecting it. Now that I'm saying this, it feels a little bit difficult to hear maybe, but that's the reality. And then we also included our own selections, and it was funny because I think that we got more or less the same opinion on the open call submissions, but then the three of us included completely different styles of PCs and artists. So I don't know what happened there, but at the same time we all agreed, but also we're very very different in our own inclusions. What do you think of these guys? Did you also notice that or not?
So Payman, I want you to go first because there's an interesting thing that I really want to be able to bounce off of you on. So go ahead and take lead on this.
Uh, well, I think that you're absolutely right. I think that it was very interesting to see that there was a lot of in common from the submissions. We had all, for the most part, agreed upon a lot of the artworks
Mm-hmm.
that the three of us, um, picked. But of course, yes, there is always going to be some. I mean, otherwise, then it would just be one person making the selections, right? So when you do have three people, as I mentioned earlier, each one of us has a different, unique eye for arts and mission as well. Like, I didn't, until today, I didn't realize that you had your collectors in mind. Of course. So that's something that I just learned about you, and it
Mm-hmm.
makes totally. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you're a you're Vivid Gallery. You represent Vivid Gallery. You have a lot of high-end collectors, and you want to make sure that uh, what you're putting out there is pleasing to their tastes. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree that we all have our own unique eye, and so maybe on some of them that we chose individually, it might have not sort of made sense for the other two. But for me, I always try to just like be as open-minded as possible, because I feel like at the end of the day, art is in the eye of the beholder, just like beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I find beautiful or pleasing to my eye might not be, the same for you.
Of course.
So, but I always respect, at the end of the day, I'm not really want to be tied down to one thing, and I'm open to everything. So if somebody says, hey, no, this one doesn't fit, I'm like, okay, no problem, you know. So yeah.
Well, you
Yeah,
also need to defend your artist, man. That's also something
I
important as a
do, I
creator.
do. Exactly. So
Don't
I didn't
give
want
up
to
that
say that. I
easily.
didn't want Yeah, I didn't want to say that because I mean, I do defend, but I don't defend it forcefully.
Of course, of
I
course.
tell, like, you and I had a couple of conversations about a few that you had questions about, and I mentioned, and then you said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, exactly. And
After,
also, actually, it's gonna give a little bit more context about what I said about curating, also for collectors. That's how I see curation in general when I work on Vivid. But for this particular exhibition, the okay, like the equivalent of that will be on curate art that people are going to enjoy seeing at the Bitcoin art exhibition in NFT Paris, and that's why, for example, for me it was important to have only pieces that are inscribed on Bitcoin, or that are going to be inscribed on Bitcoin, because it makes total sense in this art exhibition, but also trying to find pieces that people are going to see there and are going to be, oh, okay, that's great. I want to take a picture in front of that, maybe share it on X, because that's also very important in the context of this exhibition. Get more people to discover art on Bitcoin. So that's also how I reacted when I first started working on this art exhibition. What people are going to like to see there in Paris in this Bitcoin village.
so the one thing that I
100%.
really do want to like add into that, and I think it's important to provide like a little bit of an educational perspective to people who may aspire to curate at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and it's trying to pull away from what you're hearing right now and understand that like you can go into a curation as an individual, you can go into a curation with a partner, but in cases like this where you're bringing together so much unique artwork, it really does have a major effect if you can do so with three people, right?
Yeah.
Having that tiebreaker there is a really big deal, but it's also three extremely different viewpoints across an entire array of artwork, right? So being able to bring in three perspectives, pare it down, and then have a tiebreak makes it a lot easier in execution. Because I saw it very differently, not differently, but I saw it differently from, I think you and Payment on a handful of different pieces that were in the open call. But then as soon as we got into placing a couple of pieces privately, it's like, okay, what's the story we're telling here,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you look at everything that ultimately passed selection, what is the bigger story that these works are telling? And I think it really did come back to what you said, Gerard. It was about telling the story of like what art on Bitcoin really is right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the current state of it? And we managed to bring in a lot of different aesthetics and a lot of different stories that complemented that. So I just wanted to be able to echo that one element, that those are all really important parts of this specific exhibition.
Yeah, 100%. The thing is that at the end of the day, it was the first Bitcoin art exhibition in an event like at NFT Paris, but usually in NFT events, there was not a specific Bitcoin art exhibition. They start to have these kind of things, and it was the first one here at NFT Paris, and a lot of people were very curious about this Bitcoin village. Actually, it gathered tons of people, and to me, it was super important that this was a good representation of, as you said, of what art on Bitcoin looks like right now. And I'm sure it's going to be completely different in 1 year. But yeah,
I
that
mean,
was super important.
let alone 1 week.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But that also brings me to a big question that a lot of people are asking is if curators should, include the market value of the artworks that are going to be created for an art exhibition, or is it only about what you think as a creator has value, has artistic value. It's different market value and artistic value. Sometimes it's related, sometimes not, because one is subjective, the other not. So yeah, what do you think of this? Do you think it's important to include market value in your judgment, Payman?
By market value, you mean the price of the artwork?
Price exactly, if also the artist is kind of famous, or it's going to bring visibility, because for example in what I said before, it is important to have famous artworks in the exhibition there, so people want to share some pictures on X and brings more visibility to art on Bitcoin. So to me it does matter a little bit, but I have mixed feelings towards that. I don't like it that much, even if I know that it's important to include this in the judgment.
No, I mean, to be honest, for me, I think for me, the way I approach curation is kind of like putting together a concert. So I always have headliners, big names, if you will. I never come and say, hey, this artwork is worth this much.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, the collector or the person inquiring at the show is asking me, then I will give them that kind of information, the pricing, and the success of the artist. But I always bring in, like, first the headliner, like, then I bring the mid-level artists that are established and people know. And I always want to make sure that there's always the up and coming artists, like, my friend Patrick Amadon always calls it, we need to bring up and empower artists on the margins. So that's why I always like to have 3-tier level of artworks that are there being presented, because people all know the big names, right? And then the mid-level up and coming artists are gaining momentum, and then the ones that are kind of just getting started, they maybe have been in the space for a long time, but they just haven't had that success that the others have. Or maybe they're young and upcoming artists that are just entering Web3. So for me, I always try to kind of like structure my curations in that way, so it's not just all big names, because it's easy for me to, I've gotten to know all the big name artists and become friends with them. But it's a kind of like a balancing act, if you will. Like, I like to make sure everybody's represented, and Also the people that are up and coming that have dope art get their spotlight
Yeah.
in the show.
But
So
you said that at
that's
the
the way I approach
beginning,
it.
that diversity is very important to you when
Absolutely.
curation. Yeah,
Diversity and inclusion. I feel like
exactly.
if you don't include everybody, we have a small network of people that are in this Web3. I mean, we keep
Oh
saying
yeah.
this, that we are still early. We are super early still. I mean, I've been in it now for almost 4 years, right? Maybe a little bit longer. And I still feel like I'm early because I'm like, like I'm learning so much daily, and that's what excites me. It's to discovering new artists, discovering their stories. Like through that weekend, I got to have chats with like CyberC, who's
Mm.
an amazing artist. I mean, to me, he's like his artwork is on the like up there, like and the way he approaches things is amazing. Ella, for example, I got to meet. I mean, I have gotten to meet both of them online in the last year, but to meet them in person and have a conversation with them, and then also like Dog T, for example, who was there as well. I mean, these are all individual artists that are just dope artists, and they have great vision, and they're all unique. None of those three people are this. They make the same kind of art, even though they're generative artists, right?
Mm.
So for me, it's like discovering new dope artists, whether they're big or small. That's what excites me because I'm constantly interested in learning and making new connections. And
Mm.
I guess that's one of the reasons I keep telling myself, that's enough. I've gone to too many of these, traveling too much.
Yeah,
After Paris, especially,
it's
it took a
exhausting.
lot of, yeah, it's exhausting. And then like I got invited to this MetaMask MasterCard release in Denver, and I've never actually been to East Denver, even though it's only 2.5 hours away from me from California. And so last minute, I decided to go, and you know, of course, I paid the price afterwards because my
Mm.
body was just exhausted from Paris and then going to, even though it was short trip to Denver. But when you go to these things, I'm not there to party or to go out late. I'm there to discover new connections,
Well,
find new.
that's not what the restaurant owners told me. They told me this guy is drinking a lot of wine at the Vivitin, and I
Me,
was like, I'm joking, I'm joking.
me.
No, no, no.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean,
No,
I
but
do enjoy my like wine with dinner, but no, I got there late, and actually, I was really enamored with the conversations that I had with the Aeon
yeah, you were
team,
with the
and
Aeon's team, I remember. Mm.
yeah, yeah, and also the photographer. I forgot his name right now. I want to say
Farel,
Pharrell, but it's
Farel, yeah,
what is it?
Farel.
Yeah, did I say it right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, see, if I was partying, I wouldn't be able to remember his name. It was the first time I met him. But yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, that's my approach. I feel
No,
like
yeah, you want to include people of different levels of success, so that's good. But you also said that you wanted to include big names because that's also important, of course, for a lot of different things.
absolutely.
But I guess that it depends on the art exhibition. To me, on this one, it was important to have some big names, some famous pieces of art on Bitcoin for what I already said, for people to show it. But yeah, just before getting deeper into that topic, Steven, what's your take on this?
I think the price
GM
part of
Holly.
it's I think the pricing part of it is really really nuanced. When
But
I think
pricing
about
or
it,
also how famous the artist is, because some
yeah, like
artists have cheap art.
yeah, so to Payman's point, like when you use that concert like
Mm,
analogy, I'm a huge fan of it. Like I
yeah.
think like that's a really good way of looking at it when you're planning a larger exhibition. But when you're planning an exhibition or a group show or even just like even if it's just at a gallery, right? And you're doing a group show, I don't think that price should be a factor in terms of like how you decide what goes into it at all. But also, I mean, you think about the way that certain works are shown, especially if like in those galleries, it's not even necessarily that you're showing it in digital form. Like if you're planning print, right, and you're showing like work in a more physical sense, though it was created digitally, I wouldn't ever put the pricing up on that wall. I think that the price point, if it is going to come into the conversation at all, it happens among the collector that you're sitting there in front of the work speaking with, and it's if they ask you about it,
But that's
right?
because you have too many Bitcoin. You don't see any price. Like you're like, I don't care.
Look, man, it's a really big problem being rich. I don't know what to tell you. And by the way, for the record, I mean rich and friends. I don't have any financial rich. I'm sorry. Anyway, getting away from the point. The the point that I was going to drive to is like I don't factor in price there. The only time I ever factor in price is like if it is a solo show at the gallery level, right, where that artist is clearly being represented by that gallery and they're trying to sell those works. That's the only time for me that I think price should be actually really brought into the picture.
Well,
I mean, if it comes up, you can talk about it, right? Like,
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
example, I remember when I was there um, last week, there was a few of our friends that were being, uh, their artwork was at Sotheby's, right? Like Harto, uh, and others, and Woke.
mhm,
And so when somebody asked me, and one of the reasons I like to make new connections with new collectors and crypto people in general is because I feel like it's a great way to educate and pass on what I've learned in the past few years, and for the most part those people appreciate it. So I did mention that some of these artists that I've known are right now having an auction with Sotheby's, and like Harto is a great friend, so is Woke, and so I wanted to make sure that those collectors also understand that these artists are established artists that are being seen at the highest institutions, and so it wasn't for the price point type of thing. It was more like adding to their resume, if you will, right? Like kind of
mhm.
like mentioning that, hey, this person has you know done so much amazing work, naming different collections. Like, for example, I mentioned that Snow Wook's work was on the Sphere. Um, so it wasn't. I didn't talk about price unless they asked me, but I did talk about their accomplishments, if you will,
Mhm.
because to me, like having um, it's kind of like sharing their resume and their story. That's part of their stories, where they have shown what kind of institutions have supported them or are at that, like at that time they were being auctioned at Sotheby's. So I mean, I agree that the price really does not come up, at least for me, unless somebody says and asks specifically. And of course, you can just point them at point them at Magic Eden or any of these marketplaces to say, hey, look, look at on these, you can check their workout and see what their price point is and how they've kept it,
Mm.
if that comes up. Because for me, most of it is just sort of talking about the artist's work and their personalities. For me, the personality of the artist is really important. When I talk about Coldy or Brian Brinkman or Ella or anybody else that I bring up, it's easier and more organic for me when I have made those connections with those people and they're super humble, no matter how much success they've had, whether it's in price or in being in an auction like Sotheby's or Christie's, and also the effect that they have had, the positive impact they've had on this whole movement. Because some people have been here like Coldie since 2018, you know, and he doesn't act like it. He doesn't come and say, "Oh, look at me, I'm this big artist that I've been there from the get-go," and or Robness, for example, or Empress Trash. There's just so many awesome artists out there that have really unique personalities that are still very, they still have their humility. And for me, that's a very important trait for an artist.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I think that you went very deep, and but I do think that, but I also think that we forget about some parts of this question of this topic. Okay, let me try to explain myself here. But I think that we really need to take into consideration who are going to experience or see the art exhibition when you do the curation. Because at the end of the day, if you are doing a show for people to discover art on Bitcoin, like it was the time here, okay, well, it's good to have this diversity. As you said, 3 different tiers. But imagine if you are doing something for great collectors that are already well established in the ecosystem and that certainly own or at least know about all the big pieces. Well, if you only put big names, are going to be like, okay, I'm not learning anything here, I'm not discovering anything, I don't care about this exhibition. So it also depends on that. So maybe at that time it's better to do an emerging art exhibition. That can be something to take into consideration. And I do agree with what you said about personalities of these artists that had success in the ecosystem. Most of them always keep being very humble, and they do understand their positionment and how early we are in the market and how fast everything evolves. But I realize also something on the difference between established artists being selected or being exhibited there against artists that maybe it was the first time being exhibited. And it just was crazy for me to see the difference of reaction and from these 2 different types of artists. Established artists, now it's like, it's not that they don't care, but it's not that important for them because maybe they are going to be exhibited in every Web3 event. So it doesn't affect them that much, and maybe they are not even going to post about it or whatever. But for emerging artists, it was this wow, once in a lifetime experience, opportunity, and they were the first one asking for pictures, asking for videos, so they can share it with their friends, family on X. And it was funny to see this difference. And I guess that it also needs to be taken into consideration for every type of artist. If you are exhibited and yeah, and you want to support the ecosystem in general and the organizers, I also think that it's important to post about it, talk about it, share it with people, because it may not be that important for you as you are already exhibited everywhere, but for the event, it is important. And that's something that I was not disappointed, but I wasn't expecting that gap between the reactions of these different type of artists. I don't know if I've explained myself well.
No, I think you did. And I guess that goes to my point of being humble, because I think that those artists that are top tier artists that have been exhibited all over the world and have had success, those with humility, as I mentioned, they do post about it. They're
Yeah.
still grateful. I see their posts, and maybe that's something that we need to sort of use as an example to sort of make sure that other artists that are not doing it, perhaps with a very simple ask. I mean, you could, just maybe mention, if you like to, post about it, that would be great. That would get more eyeballs on the total exhibition. And I'm sure both of you would agree that the curator's job is very, very difficult. It's a time consuming
Yeah.
and it's a thankless job. I mean, people do thank you, But then also some people do come at you and say, oh, how come you didn't send me a picture? That's why, if you remember that day, you were so kind enough to give me the remote control and said, hey, pause it and take pictures. But I mean, that's if I miss a picture of somebody's artwork being on the screen, I don't want to hear from that artist complaining about it, to me or on X. And luckily that hasn't really happened much, because I try to be mindful of that and ask either the professional. I count on the professional photographer to do that, because
Yeah, that's also a big
my
difference.
job, yeah, my job is there to talk about the art and to hopefully make a sale or introduce a potential collector to that artist that I curated. Because this is no longer 2021 that people get excited just by being on the screen. I do get excited, but I want to, like, take it to that next level of having sales for the artist. Because at the end of the day, it's great to be seeing on a screen, but it's better if you can actually have a sale associated with being in an exhibition. So that's what I do. I talk, and if sometimes I'm videotaping somebody's or taking short clips, you could hear me in the background talking to a potential collector and describing the art, how I know the artist, and also if the artist is humble, I talk about what a kind and humble artist they are, even though they're super talented. And that's happened multiple times, and I didn't even notice it when I send the clip to the artist, like Brian Brinkman or Coldy or someone else. They say, oh wow, thanks for saying those nice things about me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and they're like, oh, I was in the back of the video. So yeah.
Well, Steven, what's your take on all of this? Because we haven't heard from you.
I think the one thing that I wanted to jump in with was just like the point that Payman made about like the photography is one of the most important things that like just is downplayed. And I think it's also very much so similar with like audio and video content, right? Like with what you see on X. If you're interviewed, and like I'm gonna use this like very broadly because it's something that I like, it doesn't matter if you're an emerging artist or if you're an emergent artist or if you're established. Every single person that is an artist in this space, if you're featured in an interview, you're somewhere else like in media, you should be continuing to show that appearance. Like you should be clipping it, you should be repurposing that content and documenting all of it like on your own artist website. Like that's an entire history and an archive that you can have of your journey as an artist. So like there's multiple reasons why you would want to have that, but on the photography side of things, especially for an exhibition, like it's a huge thing to just say that you were included, but it's a lot more impressive when you actually have something to present. So don't lose that opportunity if it's given to you. And I certainly still wish to this very moment that we actually did get photos of everything. And I know that it's
Man, I
damn
hope
near
so.
impossible.
I spent hours in front of those TV with the remote control. It was horrible.
Yeah, I saw
And
that. I can
oh my
attest to
God.
that, Stephen. And also, I asked a few of my, friends, the photographer friends that I ran into, to capture as many photos as
No, actually,
possible.
I have a few
So
pictures.
yeah.
I have a few pictures here. I'm gonna show them in the background. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
I love that
Yeah,
piece.
no, I
Sorry.
mean, I think that it's, that's the documentation part is really, it's a very imperative part, because, you can share it with the artists, and the artists, for the most part, from my experience, whether they're big or small, they do share it. Like, so I like what Steven said, and perhaps in the past, for example, at the when I curated for Ordinals Lisbon, we hired a professional photographer, and I even gave them direction. Like, I'm a creative director, so I work with a whole bunch of different photographers in Silicon Valley, and and also like graphic designers, motion graphic, there's people, special effects people, and part of creative direction is to give direction to the to the artists, and to make sure that the vision is complete. And so even though I had given direction to and we paid them, they still missed a whole bunch of photos. Luckily, I was able to capture some of them myself.
Hmm. But that's
Because
super
it is a
important, and
shame
people
if
need to consider that in art. Every art exhibition that is done in an event like this, there needs to be a photographer that's hired for this task, and that makes sure that every artist receive good photos about their art there. Uh, the same day during the event, because that's also super important if we can create all this engagement around the event, not only for the artist because that's the best moment, but also for the actual event or exhibition. Because it's one thing to have 10,000, 20,000 people attending the actual event. Of course, that's a lot of visibility for the artist, but where you can get the most advantage from that is also online, on X, on whatever other social media that you are using. And to me, that was super important. The make sure that artists at least get something to share during that moment, because it gives visibility to NFT Paris, to Be Life, as they hosted the Bitcoin Village, to the Bitcoin Village in general, to Art on Bitcoin. Okay, for a couple of days, if people went to on X, they were seeing Art on Bitcoin exhibited at a major Web3 event. And that was very important for everyone, I think. And I hope that we managed to, to get this feeling. But my wish is that there is professional people taking care of that for future exhibitions.
And I think you did a great job. I want to reiterate. First of all, thanks for bringing up BeLife. We will make sure that, if it wasn't for them, Bitcoin Village wouldn't be possible. And I
Yeah,
think,
thank you.
their entire team did a great job. Tim did an amazing job with all the panels. The panels were all on the main stage with the NFT Paris. So it was intertwined with the actual NFT Paris panels. And all the speakers that spoke on the behalf of ordinals just really kicked it out of the, killed it. I always say kicked it out of the ballpark, but the baseball term is hit it out of the ballpark. But I guess the soccer player in me wants to say kicked it. But and then also Ben and his team behind the booth, you and your team, On-Chain Monkeys and their team, Leo, did a great job of being there and just talking to different potential collectors and also giving interviews. I think the whole thing was like a team effort that BeLife brought together, and that was their vision, is to bring the ordinals community and have a representation of what we are as a community in the and with NFT Paris side by side. And I mean, every time I came, and I had to keep going back and forth to different, to talk to different people. But every time I came back, Gerard, you were busy talking to collectors, talking to artists, taking photos. So I want to definitely give you a big applaud you for that, because I don't know where you found the energy, but I guess you did it, and that's why the dinner was so special too. And even though I was exhausted, and there was a huge amount of traffic, I'm like, I have to make it, and I'm
You
so
made
glad
it.
that I did. And I wanted to thank you for that too, bringing all of us together at the end to celebrate that
Yeah, that
accomplishment,
was
because
cool.
you did a great job with your team and all the artists. I definitely felt like your hard work was, noticed. I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And Stephen, in Farsi, we have a saying. It's called we say "Jat khali bud," which means you not being there, your empty space was acknowledged, like it was missed, kind of to that effect. So we celebrated you, and I talked about you as well because your picture was on the screen as well, and the so I wanted to make sure, and you know how I am with you. I appreciate everything you do for this movement, and I definitely acknowledged you not being there, but you were there in spirit with us.
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. It was one of the very welcome surprises while you guys were over there. Is I think I had like 3 or 4 people ping me saying like, even if you're not here, you're still here. Also, why
Yep.
aren't you here? And I just kept being like, because flying to Paris is really expensive. And it's like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's that simple. But the truth is like when you guys asked me to like come into this with you guys and support it, like it was a no-brainer to me. And like whether or not I was up on a wall, like it to me was an opportunity to gain exposure for those artists, and I wouldn't change that. Like if there was no acknowledgement, I still wouldn't change it.
And your PFP
But
was the best artwork out there. People were like, "Can I collect this? Can I collect this? Can I collect these guys?"
look, man, you got to keep bringing up the fact that like my Remax photo, my my real estate PFP, as it is, it makes for great artwork.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a real estate agent at all. It's just one of the largest running jokes in the space. But no, like I really did want you guys to know, like it was a pleasure getting the chance to work alongside you for this, and it was a privilege to be able to even just incorporate a couple other artists. So big cheers to the both of you for that.
No, of course, man. Well, GM late the glow. I'm putting some pictures that I found on X from artists and people sharing pictures from the exhibition, and yeah, I'm happy that that a lot of people played that game and posted about it during that day. It was crazy. There was so many people. Seriously, it was hard to take good pictures and videos. It was horrible.
I mean, you did a great job though. Like, I couldn't believe the your multitasking skills were really on display. Like you're behind your booth, you're talking to like, collectors, and then all of a sudden I see you with the remote control, and I'm like, oh, that's a great
Uh,
idea that like, so you're taking pictures,
exactly.
stopping and pausing.
I
And
had to steal
so
this remote control, man. The first day, I was like, it was horrible to set up the TVs, and I asked a few people from the crowd there. I was like, okay, can I get a remote control, please? It's not working. And like, oh no, we only got 2 or 3 for the whole event. Just before the start of the event, I found one. I was like, okay, Bitcoin needs a remote control. Well, I hope that they won't kill me for that, but and I hope that I will be invited next year. Sorry, guys, I will bring my remote control next year. Uh, but yeah, it
did,
was super
did you
important.
take the remote control with you back to Spain?
No, no, of course not. But, but I was like, okay, we have one remote control for the whole Bitcoin village. Let's use it. And sometimes we're trying to make pause on one video, and you make pause on 3 screens at the same time. So it was horrible. Yeah, we need a better digital art display. Seriously, it was horrible playing with that during the actual event, because if you are doing this in a gallery and you have time to set up everything right, it's your gallery, etc., it's okay. But here, arriving to an event where you have the booth, and when you have different TVs that you have to set up yourself with USB keys, and people were always stopping, then it was horrible, seriously. So yeah, we need a better thing. And maybe Steven, I saw you smiling because you know that something is coming, or what?
I may know that something is coming, but the thing I was really smiling about was the fact that I managed to track down one photo that I don't think you did,
Oh yeah.
which is like still very, very surprising to me. I went ahead and put it, I'm sharing it on my screen if you wanted to ever flip over to it.
Yeah, I can do that. Let's go. Okay, let
Yeah,
me.
it's
It's the first time that I'm going to do this. So give me a
all
second.
right. Let's see how we break the stream.
Okay, I got it. I don't
Very,
know.
very close.
No, but actually, okay, so it's this one, but how do I do this? Showing all scenes. That's the thing. No, so that's the message. Okay. Uh-huh. Actually, I think I have the picture that you just
Well,
sent me.
I hope that you do, but if you wanted
Let me
to I
let
guess
me
flash
Oh
down
no.
your screen for a second, we could do that.
Oh no. Okay, let me give me a sec because I think I
So
have it. I
funny.
have it. This
So just
one.
to add,
No? I know. Is
yeah,
it this
yeah,
one?
yeah,
More or less.
that's the one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to share just because like to put this into context, like there were multiple screens that you guys were operating on. And one of the trickiest parts of curating, especially when you're not on site and you can't execute it yourself, is you're having to put a lot of faith into folks that are there on the ground making it happen. And like I knew with 100% certainty that the two of you had that covered and that we would be able to show that work really effectively and confidently. But there were other screens around this exhibition that were beyond just the Vivid booth, right? You see the
Hmm.
one that smacks center in the middle of the village there.
Yeah.
That's showing The Tears of the Maxi Princess by Boozy, right? Another really phenomenal piece that was curated into the exhibition. But it shows you that like it wasn't just the one vantage point. You could actually go and appreciate artwork in and around the village as opposed to just at one booth, right? Like that was a big difference maker, at least in my mind.
Hmm.
100%. Yeah.
Trying to amplify.
And the great thing that one thing to add is that it all worked kind of very like organically. Like you could just go around and you could just see different types of art on the different screens. And um, this is a great perspective of the BTC village. By the way, that's whoever sent that to you. That's dope.
Yeah, that's Tim actually. So one of the
Oh, that's Tim. Yeah, I
yeah,
see
the
it now. Yeah.
organizers. Yeah.
Tim did a
Yeah,
great job. I mean,
man.
I don't know how he did it, like to do all the, the emceeing that he did between the, like I said, between the NFT Paris speakers and the ordinals
Mm,
Paris, and they put a really all-star lineup. I mean, I watched pretty much I think everyone that was on the panels, and each one of the panels had their own unique take. And I think the audience was also like, if you looked at the actual auditorium, it was filled, it was jam packed
mhm.
for the most part. So yeah, I mean, congratulations to Tim, and again, Be
Yeah,
Life and
Tim did a great job, and I know
yeah,
that he managed to create what he was envisioning, and a lot of people gather in this Bitcoin village were very curious about what was happening. So yeah, I hope that that Be Live can host Bitcoin villages like this in future events. But we should
100%.
also, maybe it's very early or yet, but in a year or two have our own Bitcoin village events or whatever you want to call them. Just focus on Bitcoin. But yeah, for this we need to keep on building great stuff. We'll see.
Well, let's talk in the back channel. We talked about it a little bit, and Steven did contribute last Bitcoin conference in Nashville. But let's talk about what we can do in Vegas at the
Oh
BTC
yeah, I'm
Vegas.
excited about Vegas. Actually, I'm waiting for Steven to tell me what I need to do. Now, every time that I tell about Vegas to someone, they're like, "Steven is working on it. No worries." I'm like, "Okay, okay, I trust Steven. Let's go."
I told you,
Yeah,
man,
I
it's
heard.
simple. Book the flight.
It's booked, man. It's booked. I'm arriving there 24th. I'm going to the Santana concert the next day with Blue,
Ooh,
Scotch Fox, Bass Chain. Actually, guys, if you're gonna be there, please take a ticket before they sold out. I send you the link after that. Okay.
yeah, please send it. I love Santana. Santana is from the Northern California, and I love his music. He's a legend.
Yeah, me too. It's I love so I also play a little bit of guitar, and he's one of the guys that I love playing his music the most. Yeah, I really like it. We also have a Simple Nathan here, so he's a friend and collectors of CyberSea's work. He said, "Now we know why it took you so much time to set up TVs." Man, at the end of the event, we tried to use all the TVs to have like one collection only in the four screens, so we can take a short video because it will look nicer, just not having one screen but have like the whole village for a collection, for example, for Enigma by CyberSea. And it was horrible. We didn't manage to do it on time. We should have prepared it before, but yeah. And Nathan was there looking at me suffering with Pierrot trying to set up everything, but no. And we also have Butsnub here, serious FOMO. Well, Butsnub, I think that it's that there is only one thing that you need to do this year is come to Las Vegas and go to the Santana concert with us, and then see what's happening in Vegas. Steven is preparing a lot of stuff, but he just doesn't want to talk about it.
I was going to say I've got plenty more things to talk about. So if you want to talk about other things, I'm happy to. But the Vegas of it all is still a little bit, need to keep it a little bit behind the curtain still. But I wanted to see if Paiman had anything that he has coming up that he would like to share with our audience, because we've still got
we can see the
an
difference
incredible
here.
group.
Payman is in the inclusivity and diversity side, and Steven Miller keeps everything for himself and doesn't want to include
Exclusivity.
anyone.
I hope Steven Miller includes me and shares what he's got cooking, because we are close. But
If
no,
you're
I
an
mean, I
artist
think
and wants
the
to be
next,
exhibited in Las Vegas, you just send a DM to Steven. He
yeah, actually,
likes
I'm
receiving a
working,
DM every
Steve.
day, a reminder.
And that's my time.
Oh my
No,
God.
but Steven knows I worked with Dennis from Bitcoin conference at Nashville, and I'm going to continue to work with them for Vegas. We have some stuff going. I don't know. Maybe Steven and I can have a call and collaborate on what we are doing together.
No, I think that's a very important event, and we need to make sure that that art on Bitcoin is what exhibited there. So yeah,
Oh, it's for
I'm
sure
also.
going to be exhibited there. It's just that we're
Mhm.
thinking, like, at least from my end, my conversations with the team is that we're trying to do different things, not just like, last year, I don't know if you saw, like Steven saw it, there was these vintage MTV-esque TVs that were stacked on top of each other. That's how we displayed artwork. There was a dome that the artist's work was on it. So like there's different things that's why it's important to collaborate rather than compete. I always say this Web3 movement is about collaboration rather than competition, because each
It's
person
about
is
sharing, man.
unique.
Sharing,
Yeah,
sharing.
yeah. And so and Steven did a great job. He came in and he helped us out, and so I'm sure he's gonna do a great job in Vegas. But yeah, there's gonna be some cool stuff showing. Um, again, my mission is constantly uh, to spotlight those artists that are deserving with their hard work. That there's a the philosophy behind the 10,000 hour rule. People that have put in their 10,000 hours, that have become
Yeah.
experts at what they do, deserve to be spotlighted, and especially if they're humble, that makes it easier for me to want to include them. And the relationships that you build here are the most important part of this movement. It's not just all about pumping your bags or
Which bugs? Which bugs?
yeah,
I was about to
your
say, be
bags.
careful. Be very careful how loud you say that, Payman. Udi might hear you. Too soon?
Yeah,
No.
Too soon, too soon. We are gonna make a show about
I
it.
love Udi. No, but like, yeah, I think Vegas is going to be amazing. I was going to try to go to, there's a couple of other events that are going to happen. My friend Mike Beeple, as everyone knows him, is having an event at the end of, I believe it's at the end of this month on the 26th, if I'm not mistaken. I was going to try to go to that. I still am like, every day after I got better, I was like, am I gonna go? Am I gonna go? I need to get my ticket, because I always, like, Steven talked about how expensive going to Paris is. But even like for those degen travelers like me that buys their tickets last minute, always ticket prices are extremely more expensive. So I was going to try to go to that. I think it's going to be a great experience. He always puts great shows together, and I haven't made it down to his studios. So that, and then I guess NFC Summit is going to be coming either after or before. I have to look at. I talked to John Carp in Paris when I was there.
Just after.
And then there super rare people which have really, super rare John, who's the founder of super rare. I became really good friends with him and his team. We talked about getting ordinals into super rare. They're opening up their own gallery in New York in April, early April. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but like I said, I'm trying to be strong and stay home as much as I can before Vegas, because um, I've just been traveling way too much. Um, and then there's the art style stuff that it's in Dubai, and my friend Mondoir, who I saw in Paris, he had his own booth, and he wants to create like a Bitcoin, ordinals type of a conference in Dubai too. And I told him, wait till next year, please. Don't do it this year. It's too much
Well,
happening.
they need the Avengers team here united to to
Yeah.
create new exhibitions. No, but guys, I also wanted to talk about the last topic before we close this, because I think it's important for artists. It's about what I said at the beginning. Like, if we can give them advices on how to increase their chances of being selected for an open call, because that's for me the one of the things that moved me the most when we did this open call, is to receive all these messages from artists being super excited for their first exhibition. And I think that's a super important moment. In my when I work, I try to find those moments where you have these quick wins. You do something, and almost instantly you get a reward from people thanking you. And I think that's super important. So how we can what are the advice that we can give them, how to submit an application, what's most important for you?
So I'll just like lead us off here. I think that the big thing for me is context. Like,
Mm-hmm.
without any level of context, if you're just submitting a random image and you're hoping to God that we know what that image is, it doesn't typically bode well.
Yeah.
I know that might sound very obvious, but like a lot of these open call submissions, you'd be shocked, like, at just how little information is actually provided about the work. Because again, if you're on the receiving end of it, like, think about it from the aspect of like communicatee, communicator, right? If you're the communicator, you need to consider like how that communication is going to be received. And if you don't provide any degree of information beyond that image, the person on the other end is ultimately reviewing hundreds of submissions. How are they going to allow for yours to stand out? Right. So to me, context is everything. It's key, because it's the story of your work, and it gives us an idea of why it deserves to be among the rest. I know a lot of people are still kind of on the fence, thinking like that most open calls are just like a popularity contest. I can tell you this with 100% certainty. If I'm attached to an open call, it's not. So do like your diligence on who the judges are, who the curators are that are involved. And again, I can say with almost 100% certainty that these other two gentlemen are the very same way.
Mm.
So like, if you're looking at who the curators are on an open call, do some diligence on them, see what their approach is, and try to
Mm.
tailor your communication, your context to those curators so that they can
That's
understand it
super
the best they
important.
can.
That's
Yeah.
super
Very
important. I
well
agree.
said.
If they do a little bit of research and say, okay, I know that Gerard, Steven, Payman is gonna be behind that and gonna see my message. Well, if I can send a custom message that talks a little bit about our tastes or yeah, just something that we know, okay, this person took the time, they know what they are applying for, and it's just gonna resonate more with us, and we're gonna take more time to analyze this thing. Of course, I think that also one of the basics is also just making sure about what you are applying to, because there are a lot of people. I I don't know how does this happen, but it just random artworks that were from a completely different blockchain, and somehow you could see from the message from the text that people were sharing that they were not even aware of what was that. It was like, okay, and like, guys, you are applying the same artwork with the same text with the same context to maybe every open call. That's not how you do it. But yeah, that's for me that's basic. But I saw a lot of applications like this, and when you do not know the context, and you realize that this person didn't took the time to do a little bit of research of what is this open call about, that's a zero from the start.
I agree. And the other thing I wanted to add on, those are great points by both of you. And the other thing I want to add on is to follow the instructions. I still to this day get people sending files that are not named.
Yeah.
They don't send their bio the correct way. Some people say you can find my bio on my website. That's kind of like a slap in the face to the to the curator, you know, because we don't have time to go and look at your website and you know, take it would be much better if you just copy and pasted it yourself into, you know, the spreadsheet or with your art. Basically, I guess what I'm saying is please follow directions, name your files, don't send gigantic, you know, gigabyte files. Have those things in mind, but the most important thing is like several things that a curator asks. One is name your file, one is description of your artwork, and the other one is probably about your bio and your, you know, those are very simple things to do, and I think if you get those done, uh, and also be on time, you know, like make sure that you don't like, you know, send it the day of and expect to be in the show.
Yeah,
Um,
a small
but
hack
for the most
also.
part, I think.
Yeah,
Say
no,
it
sorry.
again.
No, I
No,
was
go ahead,
about to share a small tip that I saw that some people use
please.
is sharing, you know, that they applied on X or whatever social media it's relevant in this context, because
That's a very good idea.
I was going to analyze the applications 2 days after, but during that period of time where artists were able to apply, well, I saw some people tagging Vivid, me, Steven, or you, whatever, and I saw this artwork already. When I see it again in the application, well, it catches my eye first, and I'm going to take more time to analyze it. And it's like, okay, I like this post, and this person took the time to post about it, so it means that they do care a little bit more maybe than other people. So I think that's a good tip, because at the end of the day we all spend a few minutes on X, and we see it, maybe even if it's only 1 second. Usually when you tag someone, they see that you that you tag them there. Maybe they are not going to like or comment or whatever, but there is a big chance that they have seen it at least for 1 second, and that's already a lot actually in this world.
That's a great point, by the way, Gerard, because like it kind of like also shows the artists that are invested into the being part of the show, right?
Exactly.
So that they're actually taking ownership, and they're, you know, because this is like a tango, right? We are here to uplift and spotlight artists, but artists need to also spotlight the show, because that's, it's something to be proud of, to be a part of some exhibition, international exhibition, for example, at in Paris. I
Mm.
think that's a great point. I like that.
Plus, you can have your community supporting you, and that also maybe gonna resonate a little bit more with the creators. Okay, because it's impossible to know about everything, but
Absolutely.
if you manage to get your community helping you, it does mean something. So yeah, Steven, do you want to say something more? Yeah.
No, I think that you guys actually wrapped it up really, really well. I was quickly glancing to my left. I don't know if you can hear it. I've got a dog having a hacking fit over here for some reason.
Oh.
Everything will be fine, but he was distracting me for the moment. I was like, okay, chill out. We'll get to you next. But yeah, no, I think that you guys nailed it in terms of what you were advising with there. I just really hope that, honestly, if there's one thing I hope comes out of this conversation today, is that more artists start asking questions,
Mhm.
because like that's the missing like component of like 90% of the time is like they're just operating on assumption about how curation works, and that's just not how it works.
Mhm.
Like you need to be asking questions and learning how to get inside the head of a curator, or to get that outside perspective.
Mhm.
It's invaluable. So just if if you have the opportunity, ask questions. That's the biggest thing that I
But
would say
I
out of that.
believe a lot of artists, like they are in this position where they do not know what's important, what do they need to do, what is going to have an impact on their career or not. And if you're an emerging artist and you do not get the visibility that you think you deserve, of course, because you're just starting and almost no one cares about you. Well, I believe it must be super hard when it has been months and months like this. Maybe you lose faith in everything, but my guess is do not lose faith, but be efficient. I don't know how other people handle these open calls for an art exhibition, but I realized that a lot of people told us, wow, it's the first time that I've been accepted, even if I applied 20, 30 times. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, because
Wow.
your artwork clearly deserves to be there, at least in this kind of exhibition. So maybe you have applied to the wrong exhibitions. As I said, sometimes I see applications from people that they shouldn't have applied there because their artwork is not at all related to Bitcoins, not on Bitcoin. They clearly don't know what they are doing here. So maybe that's your situation. So be more efficient. Okay, instead of maybe applying to 30 open calls, what are the 5 to 10 open calls that you can put more effort into it and do what Steven or Paiman said here? Take the time to give more context, do some research. I think that's super important. And yeah, I believe it must be super hard for an emerging artist that has been working for months or years, and yeah, he's waiting. It's a difficult situation, so we understand you, and we feel you.
100%. And I think as curators, at least I know that Steven said it, the three of us are very conscious about, how we go about curating and making sure everybody sort of has a seat at the table, if you will. And so I think the more patience you have, like not getting upset if your work didn't get in, because I would love to include every artwork that that looks good and should be in an art exhibition. However, there is limitations. Even if the artwork fit the exhibition, you can't, you just can't. There's too much. And by the way, I wanted to also say, Gerard, what a great job you did with the video, putting all those files together. It's not just, that's why it's important for people to send their artwork in the correct format, easy access, because there's someone that is going to have to make a reel for these screens, and
Mm.
that's a job by itself. So I
Mm.
wanted to applaud you for putting that time in for that.
Well, thank
You
you.
did a
And,
great
and
job.
and
Yeah,
it actually
of
comes
course.
back to what we're saying, because it was also a compromise to find, because my limit was I want to select as many artists as we can that deserve it, but also to give enough exposure to every artwork selected. And the minimum to me was, okay, 15 seconds in the video loop for every artwork, because otherwise, if the loop is 20 minutes, you're going to be maybe appear 3, 4, 5, 10 times. And I did this simple math where it's like, okay, the event is going to be open for 8 hours. The video loop is 15, 20 minutes because of X amount of pieces that I can allow myself. And the artwork is going to appear at least 20, 30 times. And that's super important, because otherwise the artworks are going to be shown once, and nobody's going to see them. So yeah, it's a difficult balance between quantity and also time, exposure time in that video loop. But of course, this is a very specific art exhibition. It's not the same in a lot of other different exhibitions. But yeah, and it also was difficult for people to submit a good artwork, because, for example, we can see here in the picture, so you have these black banners on top and below, because this was a square format artwork. And I know that for some artists this is very hard to see, because they want their artwork to be to have in the full screen. Sometimes it's difficult when it's an open call like this for an art exhibition that aims to give exposure to as many artists as possible, because you cannot do magic if the artwork is like this. It's difficult to spend enough time for every artist to say, okay, no, send me a video loop or an artwork that's gonna fit perfectly with this. So yeah, it's a challenge that I guess that we are gonna try to solve in the upcoming years for art exhibitions like these, digital art exhibitions. I need to find a way to make sure that artists can select. It's like, okay, these are the formats, different formats. What do you expect? What do you prefer for your art to be exhibited? That's something that we maybe should have thought about when doing these forms, because I know that for some artists it's very important, and you cannot get the information afterwards. But if you get it in the application, maybe you can try to make sure, to satisfy their demand the best way possible. But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, in this example that you're showing right now, this is a square image. So, you know, you can't really do anything unless you're projection mapping it. On these screens, they're either portrait or landscape. And so whenever I do ask for, art submissions, I always say, if I know we have two different types of, screens, I say send one portrait or one landscape. So that's one
But
way to get
sometimes it
around it.
doesn't
But
work.
really, yeah, with
Sometimes it's
this
not
you
possible.
can't. With
Yeah.
something like a square, even if you put it on the landscape one, it would even get squished more. So
Yeah.
this is the best representation of this kind of format.
Yeah, it is hard.
Yeah. But I
But
think that both of you guys are amazing people. We need more people that are here doing the work that you both are doing, elevating artists, discovering artists, introducing artists to the masses, to the collectors, and then also inspiring people to be themselves. I always say, since Clubhouse, don't be a copy of someone else, be an original one of yourself. And both of you guys are original one of ones, and it's a pleasure to have worked with you, and I look forward to continuing our friendship
or
and
Vegas.
work. Yeah, Vegas. Viva Las
Well,
Vegas.
Payman is giving us a lot of love today. I can see that it was the end of a rainy period for him in San Francisco. Thank you
Yeah,
so
no,
much,
I'm all
Payman.
about love. I give love to people that deserve love. And I think that with love and acknowledgement to the right people, you can't really, it's just part of my ethos, and I think you both are amazing. And I really appreciate everything you're doing for this movement, because we are all part of this historical time, and it's really important how you want to be remembered and what you want your legacy to be. So it's truly a pleasure for me to be a part of this with you. Thank you for having me. By the way, this is my first time doing a streaming type of interview.
Let's go.
So
Well, we need more people doing
good
this.
job.
When Steven Miller color commentary becomes a video show? When?
Soon enough, my friend. Soon enough.
Ah,
I've got final. Look, I'll leak the alpha here. There is a really good shot that color commentary is moving to video in April. I've
nice. Let's
Nice.
go.
been very much so looking forward to that. Just trying to work out the tech setup, but
Well, let me
there's
know
a
if you
little.
need any help, bro. Of course.
I certainly appreciate that. I've just got a little something that's coming up later on this month that's currently the priority.
Uh,
But
well,
as
if
soon
you
as
have an art
that ship has
exhibited in your
sailed,
set, make sure that you have some vivid art. Otherwise, our relationship is over. You know that.
look, and that is the last thing that I would want, Gerard. So I believe me, I will have one teeny tiny little frame in the corner, just
That's
over
enough,
here.
man. That's enough. Oh my
No,
god.
man,
No, it's
I'm
gonna be
looking
cool.
forward to being able to show some really solid work in that show. And look, it brings another dimension to all of this. Like we can talk on spaces all day long, but at the end of the day, like when you're talking in front of an audience, you do need visual. And this
Mhm.
setup that you guys have here, like it's a beautiful, beautiful setup. So I hope that more listeners continue to show out and show up to your shows
No, it's true.
because it's
I
really,
can do
really,
something
really
like
cool.
this. It's cool. I think it's
Yeah.
important to showcase art. Look, look what was exhibited in NFT Paris.
Yeah. Look, if you need to buy a house, let me know. Um,
Oh my god. Okay, guys. Well, it's time to close this show. Thank you, everyone that was listening to us. I hope that this conversation was somehow useful for you if you're an artist. And yeah, can't wait to work with you again on maybe future exhibitions. It's gonna be amazing to go to Las Vegas and meet you again there. Thank you, Nathan, for your last comments. I do agree. Cybersea, great work, and we're working with him to release Enigma very soon. So stay tuned. And yeah, guys, maybe do you have any last words before we close it up?
I just want to say
Payman,
thank you for the opportunity, and it was a pleasure to work with both of you. And I look forward to future projects together.
Let's go. Thank you.
yeah, very much the same exact sentiment. Working with the two of you guys has been a pleasure, and getting a chance to know you each individually has been, incredible over the course of the last year or so. And I'm just looking forward to continuing to build on Bitcoin with you. If you are at home and you're curious about generative art on Bitcoin and what's possible, there's literally one place that I would tell you to go learn most immediately, and that's Vivid Gallery. But beyond that, if you want to learn a little bit more about what's possible, you can always jump in my DMs and follow along because I do a
Yeah.
lot of generative art coverage myself.
Yeah, make
I
sure
don't
to
pull any
follow
punches on
Steven
that.
and Studio Payman. Steven is releasing very soon his own collection, and I can't wait actually to talk about it because he showed me a few things, and it's amazing. So yeah, and of course follow also Studio Payman. If you want to be exhibited in future art exhibitions, well, you know who to follow now. Guys, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. We're closing this. Thank you, everyone that was here. Don't forget to like and retweet this conversation. Share it with some artists that may be interested. Bye bye, guys. Art never
Bye
dies.
bye.
Ciao.
Ciao. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.